What up, folks? Shadow Gauge here. Welcome to my Twitch stream. Well, I guess technically I'm doing this for a video for my Twitch. But I kind of wanted to basically show some sound design and go over a few, I guess, things that are probably a little higher level. But I think that having an understanding of this, I think should help open up some options if you're not already aware of basically some of the design techniques. I'm going to be using Vital. This is free software, and essentially the sound I'm going to be making is a percussive sound, almost like a tom, like a hollow donk. That's what it's named. But one of the things that's kind of important about this is I'm hitting the F key, so this is you can see where it's hitting. But if I hit any other key here, the sound is it's not anywhere near the same, and that's a very important thing to understand when doing sound design. There are instances where you don't necessarily, like, you would basically, if you want a specific sound, it has to be on a specific note. There's no way around it. Now, technically, I could kind of adjust this on my filter here, using the format, the AOEI or AOEI, whatever. But I could adjust this so that it reacts to different notes. But essentially, I just like having it there. It's quick, easy to hit. And I'll be going over basic whatever chains that you kind of don't necessarily want to deviate too far from this setup, just because you'll start to get undesired effects. And I will also be going over some of the the unison here, because if you leave this on default, you're not going to get any decent sound. And so I've basically changed it to stack as a minor chord and put the detune range up to 7. And if you go into voice, it's only affecting my essentially what's being used for my FM and my ring modulator. And it's pretty much the detune power is at 0.05, and it's set at 75% and 5 voices. Now, it's important that you're using 5 voices it's important that you're not using an even number of voices, because if you are using an even number of voices, you're going to have a lot more issues with phasing and just, phase correlation issues that you don't necessarily, they're not going to do your sound any good. Another thing that I kind of want to touch on here is basically the difference in octaves. So one of the things I learned at the dojo, which if you're not familiar with the producer dojo and you're trying to make music, you should familiarize yourself with the producer dojo. Does not matter what kind of music you're making. It essentially will get you to the level you need to be at. NL Gates is the fucking man. But anyway, one of the things that Dylan told me is basically whenever, it was for making dubstep sounds, like the dubstep screech or whatever, having a 4-octave difference. And so I applied that to basically quite a few things, and it's pretty much, that 4-octave difference gives you this, I would say, extremely desirable harmonic kind of sound, which is not necessarily, I'm not sure how big of an effect it's playing on this sound, but I can tell you that this sound is very specific if you're trying to make it. This is a good example of modeling and what you would be doing if you're trying to model a sound. A 2-liter being smashed against your head. Something like that. But anyway, so if I just I guess let's start from the beginning here so you can see everything that's going on. Let's see, I'm just going to make sure that's something that's saved, initialize preset. Okay, so we're starting from here. First thing I'm going to do is I want to set this down to -24. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and turn this one on and set it to +24. And then I'm going to turn this one on and set it to 12. Okay, now the other thing is, for my main sound here, I want to be using a very basic shape. Anytime you're not modulating, either FM or ring modulation, you basically want to be sticking with a basic shape. So on this, and also a sawtooth, you're going to have more phase issues with the sawtooth, and it's hard to do stereo with the sawtooth. Not that sawtooths don't have their place, but you essentially, if you're trying to do sound design, it's very likely you don't actually want a sawtooth. So I'm going to go up here, and I'm just going to go to the factory and go to basic shapes, and then I'm going to go to the second. Now this is essentially, this shape right here is basically, it's an analog square wave, because you can't get square waves. You can't basically make a square wave analog. You can't make a, yeah, anyway, it's just not possible. So you also want to make sure that your phase is off of random, because I really don't know why it's set like that. And you might want to mess with the phase a little. You can. It just has very subtle differences. So it's nothing that'll really make or break your sound, but sometimes it's good to have a little bit of a different starting point for your phase, for your waveforms. That way you're definitely avoiding phasing issues. So for the second sound, I'm actually going to want to use something that is definitely a, I guess, something that's like spectral, but like very, very busy. I'll use one that's, I guess a lot of these, you might not get all the, if you got the free version, you may not get all of these. You may just get the factory. I don't know. I have the whatever $80 version. But Clicky Robot is a fairly good one for this. And you're going to want to come up and get something kind of similar to what you're seeing up here. You don't want it to be exact, but just semi-similar. And then for the last one, again, you're going for something that is a little off, little knot thing. And I got, these are these are like my own stuff here. So I'm just going to kind of go with this, and let's go to 3D here. So I'll put that about there. I'm going to switch this up to 5 and take it up to about 70% here. About 75%. And then get this to where these are kind of all evenly spaced. And on this, I'm going to go ahead and go for harmonic stretch and just do it a little, like create a little bit of a, a little bit of art. I don't know what to call that, but basically about 66% sounds pretty good. And then on this one, basically I'm going to squeeze. This will allow me to basically kind of pull it in or out. And this, in the long run, is going to give you more of a, it's basically going to adjust the transient. It's going to affect the transient more than anything, but the transient is also what kind of makes this sound. So where are we at right now? Yeah, it sounds horrible, right? Okay, so first thing we're going to want to do, turn this off. We don't actually want this on. We don't want the last one. So that's the only sound we have. And then we're going to want to apply ring modulation to the first one, because if you apply FM, it's just here. I'm going to apply FM so that you can actually hear it. So I've essentially just made noise. But if I go over here to some ring, that's definitely not noise. But I don't necessarily, that's the other thing here. So in Vital, the first envelope is actually your is for your volume envelope. So that's what's going to affect your envelope out. So if I go to the first envelope and I turn sustain off and I turn release off and I bring decay down, you'll notice now I've got like starting to get that little click, like a plucked noise, which is what I want. I'm bringing the other one. So now it's kind of like I don't know, but it definitely has a very organic sound to it. I'm going to turn the sample on here, and I don't necessarily want white noise. I'm going to bring this over to River. Where is River? There's River. All right, and I'm going to bring this up to 7, which is a fifth above. And then I'm going to go ahead and put this back on filter 1 and put this on filter 1. It really doesn't matter on that one. And then this one I'm just go direct out. Turn on filter 1, and then I'm going to set this at formant, and then I'm going to bring this all the way over, and I'm going to bring this most of the way down to about 0.8, 0.08, about right about there. That works. And then I'm going to bring this over to about 10.2. There we go. Now anyway, and then of course I want to come over here, set this to FM modulation. There, now you got that. It's like it's got that percussive sound to it. Next thing, I guess we can go ahead and increase the decay just a little bit. And I don't want the mix. I want the peaks all the way up, but I don't want the mix all the way up. So that's probably good. So now let's go into the effects. Now, in general, it's not necessarily a bad idea to have your chorus first, but chorus is essentially delay. So the only time you would use a chorus first is really if you're not doing much else to the sound. Otherwise, you kind of want your chorus towards the end. You want your delay towards the end. Same with flanges and stuff. So really what I wanted at the beginning is I want the filter at the top. Even though I'm using a filter, so I don't necessarily need the filter at the top. But I'm going to filter into compressor. And then I'm going to EQ it. And then I am going to go into my distortion. Now, from there, I guess I do reverb or bring up the flanger. So essentially I'm going to use the flanger, but that's basically just to give it a little bit of variance when I'm hitting it so that it's not always the exact same. Anyway, let's turn the compressor on. I'm going to take it off multi-band mode and just, single band. And, it doesn't really matter. I might as well just turn it up. But you don't necessarily you want that basically you don't want much of a tail there. You want that tail getting taken out. And then on the EQ, basically you're going to want to make sure that this is on, and probably around 50 semitones will be fine. For the basically the mid one, that's going to be up around 81 or so. And essentially, if you do the math, you're looking at basically 5 semitones above the octave here. So that's basically where the math sits. So, that'd be, if you're at, what is it? It's 63, 64 is an octave. So, plus 5, plus an octave would be, 76, plus 5, which would put you at about 82, 81, 82. And it's kind of, it's not an exact science there, but, and you're also going to want to cut it off here, probably at about 100 semitones. Maybe turn the resonance up just slightly. See. There we go, second band. Should be good, should be good. And then after that, we're going to go into distortion and just soft clip, a little bit of drive. And come over here. Okay. So, I'm turn this down. Oh, right. Okay, so let's go in here. Now, this is where you pretty much probably always want to change this. Just because, I'm going to go ahead, enter value, and just put it at 7. Turn the stereo down, turn the track down, to just have a decent spread on the bottom. Just so I'm lining them up because, I'm OCD like that. And then put this one like that. So about there. And you hear how much of a difference that's making. It is making a fairly serious difference there. So if we go back in here, make sure this is all yeah, here you go. Too much on this. It starts to lose its organic sound. Okay. So then we're going to come back in here and we're going to turn on the chorus. And for the chorus, we basically, this is like, I don't know, I got this from a studio engineer. Essentially, you don't necessarily want to, you kind of just always do it at around 4.5 and about 5.5. 5.8, somewhere in there. Let me turn the depth up. I'm going to go ahead, take the spread down a little, put that up, feedback down a little, take the mix down a little. Because I don't want that if you kind of heard it, there's this metallic kind of sound. That's basically going to take care of that. Yeah, I have one other key I could use. Okay. So then, excuse me, turn on the flanger, and for the flanger, I really don't want, turn the mix down, turn the depth up, turn the feedback down, turn the center down. I just want that very subtle, you know, to the extent where you can't even hear it. And then I'm going to go ahead, just in case I want to use the delay, I'm going to put the delay first. Now, if I do use the delay, I'm basically using the delay to give me a sense of like if I'm hitting the drum and then just letting the stick settle. So they'll be like this kind of sound. But I'm not really going to worry about that right now. Next thing I'm going to actually do is the reverb. Now, anytime you're using reverb, pretty much you always want to keep your transient dry. So for that, I'm going to go ahead and come into my second envelope here, and I'm just going to turn the sustain down, turn the release off, bring the decay down, but I'm going to make sure the attack's down. Make sure the attack's down on the first one too. I'm going to bring the attack down, but I'm going to turn the hold up so that there's a little bit of a delay on it. And right about there is fine, I'm sure. And then I want to apply this to the mix. I'm going to take the mix, turn it all the way up, and then bring this all the way down. So that way, at full, it's off. Because it's just easier this way than trying to have it so that it's delayed and comes in a certain time. Really you can do it either way. I've just found that this way is the easiest. So even there you can tell it's a little too much. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this back a little bit. Or bring this up. Okay, so there we go. And then, let me turn this up just a little bit. All right, so now, so essentially, just to show you what you can do with the delay, and you're going to want to make sure the delay is before the reverb. It is. Okay, so switch this over to tempo triplets, and then put it on 16th, and then essentially same thing here. You're going to want to copy this down to the mix and take it all the way down. Wow. And so you may want to put the after that. you know, I don't know. I've gotten it sounding good a couple times, a few times, but you know, I don't know. I a lot of times for my delays, I'll actually just do it very. I'll just cut and paste because, you know, sometimes I just want it very, very specific. And I mean, I could just switch it to time mode. I'm sure that's an option. Yeah, you go to seconds here. You know, I probably would want to actually change it so that the just so you know, it's not on the same as the reverb because it's definitely not reacting. Turn the feedback down. Yeah, because you're not even getting till the end there. It's like, yeah. Anyway, but so that's an option there. And the other thing I like to do is, you know, come in here to phasing, but really turn this way down. Oh wait, hold on. That was my reverb. Turn this way down, and then turn the depth up, turn the feedback down, center, create the offset. So that way, just a subtle difference each time, you know, nothing too big. But essentially, I mean, that's there you go. I made a so also I'm going to want to have a little bit of variance when I hit the note, like just because, you know, there's always a fall off on it, so at least for the frequency. So essentially, to do that, I'm going to go ahead and turn the attack up, turn sustain off, turn decay off, turn release off, because it shouldn't be going much longer than that. But then I'm going to take this and put this over on the semitones for these two, and I'm going to enter a value of -7 on both of them. And that way, and then for the macro one, I'm basically going to set this at 12 here. I'm going to copy the macro onto this, and then I'm going to set this at full, and I'm going to dial it back until it sounds decent. Now right there. So essentially, it sounds halfway decent. Now, another thing that you can do, and I'll you know, this is like kind of, I guess, you don't need to do this, but you can. If I set this basically the same way I had the other one set, and turn the peaks up, turn the mix down a little bit. And then I can basically take this here, copy it onto this, bring this up a little bit, and bring that down. Just about there. And just kind of tighten that up a little bit. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Now I've made my percussive tom from scratch. And it sounds pretty good. But yeah, I figured I'd just do a quick tutorial on this just because, you know, I think that just understanding that how some of this kind of works together, you know, because I mean, this is, you know, good luck finding, good luck getting this information any other way than like just constant failure. But essentially, I mean, it kind of shows some of the caveats, what you can do with, you know, the weirder, kind of the weirder waveforms. And keep in mind too, like it really, I can switch these up and it's not going to have a huge effect. Some of them do. It's like that's like a bullet ricocheting off, like. Anyway, yeah, but that's just, you know, some other things. Essentially, once you have it at the level, like, basically dialed in as far as I have, it really doesn't matter what the waveforms are, because it's more or less the frequency, you know. You're basically shaping the waves anyway. But if if you're too far out, you'll start to lose some of your definition of the sound, which is not a good thing. So I do like, personally, I like, oh wait, this one should be producer, and then for this one, I like to use Megalodon, my Megalodonia. It is a Megalodon. It's Megalodonkus. Right there. Yeah, that's about right. That was the other thing, you know, when I was trying to make that hollow sound, like, I was having, it's not easy to make that sound, you know. It's like, I mean, hence the whole, like, it basically only functions on one key on the whole keyboard. But if I bring it down, I mean, it has some. mean, you can see that it really is. Like, and even there, I've got 2 keys. If I go, now it starts to get out of whack, and it's dead right there. So, you know, it literally is just that small little area that is functional. And yeah, I guess I can go ahead and turn these all to high. That makes a little bit of difference. And of course, you can go to ultra high here. But, you know, doesn't really matter there. Anyway, yeah, that's really all I got for this one. Hopefully that kind of gives you an idea of, you know, basically an idea of how you would model something, because when you're modeling a sound, it's very specific. And, you know, I'm not sure why the 4 octaves is so necessary. And anytime also you're using like FM, you're basically going to want to probably be at a, well, you usually want to be at a higher frequency. Well, this is not necessarily at a higher frequency. It is, I mean, it's at a higher frequency than my bass. You know, my bass is negative 24, so, you know, yeah, and, let's see if there's anything I missed here. Let's see, I could adjust this. This is kind of gonna, pretty much anything I adjust is, since it really pretty much is nothing but a transient, is basically going to affect the transient. So, yeah. Oh, and also, you know, I mean, like if I come down here, if I just... And here it doesn't really have that much of a difference in audio if I change the number of voices. But if I change one of these, like, and you can notice too, it's like, okay, 4 starts to sound right again at about 5. So, you know, just something to keep in mind. Don't use an even number of voices. Just don't. Just don't. So yeah, that would be it. I guess I'm done for this tutorial. Hope that was informative. Shadow Gauge out. Oh yeah, and you know, 2 lo-fi drum and bass. Yeah, that's my whatever. Shadow Gauge is also kind of you know, originally it was a comic book character, and I went for my my avatar name and started using it for the music, but it just, I don't know, it's kind of cheesy for the music, and you know, I kind of wanted something that started with a number and was recognizable, and 2 lo-fi. So there you go. All right, that's all. Shadow Gauge out.